Hi friends, we were inspired to produce this video based on watching Canadian Preppers series on female preppers. This is the Prepared Suburbanite, and I'd like to introduce my wife Lucille, who really doesn't have anything to do with Negan's named weapon in The Walking Dead, but maybe she can explain a little bit about that later on. We're going to start with a series of questions to give our opinion on the gender-defined roles in prepping, motivation, and remember that men are from Mars, and Mars is the god, the Roman god of war, and women are from Venus, who's the Roman god of love. So stay tuned for our conversation. So, by way of a little background, male roles in society have generally been as the provider and defender, and males are generally stereotyped as being the aggressor. The male focus is within the realm of the hunter, the protector, the competitor, and in line with that of duty, risk-taking, and ambition. Female roles in society have generally been as the nurturer, and are interdependent and are stereotyped as being passive. The female focus deals with child rearing, food preparation, and is generally social, emotionally expressive, and relationship oriented. What we'll endeavor to cover here is the relational aspect of these traits. Are they complementary, mutually exclusive, or at odds with one another? So the first question, if men are from Mars and women are from Venus, how do we define the perceived roles of the male and female in a shit-hits-the-fan survival type situation? So from my perspective, men have historically been the hunter and family protector. Looking back at ancient civilizations, be they prehistoric man, ancient Egyptians, or even Native Americans, men are the game hunters, the family and tribal protectors, the leaders, and sometimes conquerors. In contrast, females are naturally nurturers, food preparers, childbearers, and caregivers.
Since we're talking perceptions or perceived roles, then I essentially agree with what you say. I think the roles develop logically based on body build and physical strength, as well as chemical hormonal factors. Males are physically larger in stature and have different and usually larger muscle mass and are generally physically stronger than females. They're generally more aggressive and naturally protective because of the hormone testosterone, which directs their strengths and makes them more aggressive in their emotional responses. Females are generally physically smaller, not as muscular, and are designed to be childbearers and to respond to most situations in a more nurturing and caregiving way than men due to the hormone estrogen, which tends to direct their emotional responses to be more demonstrative, caring for each other, crying easily, things like that.
Is that the way the roles should be in a shit-hits-the-fan survival type situation, given that today's societal tendencies are leaning toward gender equality? Well, from my perspective, just because men would gravitate to being game hunter and the protector, and the women to nurturing and the caregiver role, doesn't necessarily mean that those specific gendered individuals would necessarily be the best at those roles. Keep in mind, we're in a shit-hits-the-fan survival situation, and the best solution, I believe, would be to play to the strengths of the individual. If I was Emerald Lagasse, or Wolfgang Puck, and you were Diana, the Roman goddess of the hunt, the roles would be necessarily very different.
Again, I agree. Sometimes female strengths might surpass those of the male strengths, and vice versa in certain areas that are non-traditional. She may not have any cooking skills at all, but be a much better shot with whatever weapon is available for hunting game. He may be better at cooking and food preparation and have a softer heart, being more caring and able to provide care for the children or community. Females can sometimes be much more aggressive and protective than males. Think of a bear sow protecting her cubs. Males are usually physically stronger, but females can also be very physically strong. Individual strengths, I agree, should totally be utilized in any given survival situation.
All right, question number 3. In a shit-hits-their-fan survival situation, how do the male priorities differ from the female priorities? And how do these priorities complement or possibly exclude each other? Well, from my perspective, male priorities tend to protectionism and providing hunted game for the family and secondary to the community. For example, he'll focus on strategies for guard duty rotations and for pursuing game with other males in the tribe. The female role will be prioritized by nurturing and providing care to the family, and care in this case could include food preparation and food preservation. She'll focus on the welfare of her children, mate, and community, and the roles she will play. She'll also be engaged in relationship building where there are others in that community. Here, she'll be looking for and assessing skill sets and talents and trying to define her role and the role of others to maximize the group's effectiveness.
I somewhat agree, though, again, speaking in generalities, males tend to focus on protection and hunting, and females tend to focus on building relationships with others. I'm not sure her priority would be looking for or assessing skill sets, though it might be. Females, in my view, are generally seeking support, whether it be emotional or skill-based. But in a survival situation, I would hope that we would be leaning toward sharing skill sets as well as emotional support.
All right, so question number 4. Are these traditional, or posed differently, are these stereotypical rules truly the reality, or are these learned behaviors that have been reinforced by societal expectations? Again, in my opinion, the term stereotypical is a big misnomer in this context. These roles have been ingrained in our survival journey since the beginning of time. Men hunt for game, men protect the tribe. Women raise the children, women nurture. Are the behaviors really learned, or are they genetically disposed? Well, then here's the question. Why are men physically stronger, taller, and more aggressive? Well, simply it's because those are the traits that are vital for hunting game and protecting the tribe and assuring overall tribal success. In contrast, women's tendencies are to caregiving, nurturing, and relationships, where physical attributes of strength, height, and aggressiveness do not necessarily play a role. Rather, the female will use her intellect and relational skills to build a community that will survive. I do not believe this is learned, but I believe these traits are the traits that allowed humankind to become the dominant form of animal life on the planet.
Again, speaking in generalizations, my opinion is that we are predisposed to play specific roles in our society. Our genetic, male versus female, chemical and hormonal makeup, without question in my mind, plays a huge role in a huge part in the roles that we have adopted or accepted. That's not to say that our society has not reinforced those roles by stereotyping the roles, baby dolls and kitchen scenarios for girls and BB guns and cowboy and Indian war games for boys. However, males really are hormonally predisposed to be more protective, physically stronger, and more aggressive than their female counterparts. And females are hormonally predisposed to nurture caregivers. I'm not sure that cooking or food preservation and prep has anything to do with predestined roles. I'm personally very competitive and will attempt anything to prove that I am as strong and competent as any male in a traditionally male role. But I do cherish and relish the rewards of the traditional female role.
And that's why Negan named his weapon Lucille.
And beware.
So, question number 5. How and when should the roles be defined in a shit hits the fan survival type situation? I'm going to assume that the folks watching this video have some interest in being prepared and preparedness overall. So, I'm going to be compelled to say the best time to define these roles is prior to the event that triggers the shit hits the fan survival scenario. If you're a team, whether it's a husband and wife, married couple, whether it's a pair of significant others, whether it's a family, whether it's an extended family, or whether you're in an organized prepper group, then it's your responsibility to vet the skills and talents and the tendencies of the individuals in the group and make decisions on who specifically will provide the various survival needs of the group in advance of the shit hits the fan survival situation. I'd advise creating a list of needs that would be specific to your circumstances to include who hunts, who cooks, who defends, who takes care of the kids, who cleans, and most important, who leads.
Well, I'm going to project that even if you consider yourself to be preppers in a true SHTF situation, preconceived or assigned roles will go by the wayside. We'll each be just striving to survive. We'll each instinctively tend toward the role that we naturally gravitate toward or feel is necessary to survive, right or wrong. I believe that we will begin to set roles after the dust settles in a true SHTF situation. Keep in mind the fright or flight response that naturally occurs in all humans. Ideally, the roles should be preset, but I'm not sure that it would pan out that way in reality. But the specific roles really should be identified and assigned as soon as possible.
So, in conclusion, and to recap, the differences are real. Whether they're learned, hormonal, or genetic, there's a huge difference, and we must celebrate that difference. Whether the male's a better shot or a better cook, or the female's a better cook or a better shot, really doesn't matter. But what does matter is to know and understand the natural makeup of males versus females, identify the strengths of the individuals, and play to those strengths. When you find yourselves in a survival situation, don't rely on stereotypical roles. Rather, use the skills identified within each individual. Survival scenarios will vary, whether it's economic collapse, foreign hostility, natural disaster, whatever will drive how the groups must prepare to survive. If you rely on traditional roles and ignore the strengths of the individuals in your group, failure will occur and your survival will be lost. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always. Out for now. as the provider and defender, and males are generally stereotyped as being the aggressor. I can't find my place in here. Based on economic collapse, foreign hostility, natural disaster.
Once again, suggest that we bring that camera down here.
You can move it wherever you want it.
What?
I'll just sit right here.
Well, because I think that we're
Recording? Is the little red light blinking? All right.